Hey everyone, welcome to the 17th episode of Ripple Live. I am Steve Martin and I'm here with my buddy Mark Spencer, and this is the show where we discuss all things Final Cut Pro 10 and post-production related topics on the Mac. So Mark, it's good to see you. It's going to be an exciting show today.
Yeah, very fun. We've got a couple of good surprises in store. As Steve said, this show is really about you and answering your questions about Final Cut Pro 10. And the format is normally we do a tip and get things started. You ask questions, but we do have a special guest we'll talk about in just a second. I just want to let you know there's a chat window there where you can ask your questions. If things go by kind of quickly, we answer as many as we can. If you really want to make sure you get your question answered, there's a little $sign at the bottom. If you click on that and make a nominal donation, your question will get posted real big and stick up there, and we can get it. We will make sure to get to those first as best we can, and it helps support the show, so thank you for that. So that's kind of the show format, but today we're really excited to have a special guest, so I'm going to turn it over to Steve to make that introduction.
Right, so Justine Ezrick. So I met her back in, I think, 2006. And she was on our MacBreak Studio show way back with Alex Lindsay. And I remember it was her standing side by side. We were doing a MacBreak show, and that's where we introduced. This is before YouTube. And so since then, Justine has been, there's been a rocket strapped to her back. And she had, I think, over 5 million subscribers on her channel. And she's super excited about technology, Final Cut Pro 10. We just released an app with her. And we have her on the show, and we're super excited to ask her questions. And of course, you can use the chat window and you have questions for her. Let's do it up. So let's bring on Justine. All right. Hi, Justine. Thanks for joining us on our show.
Hey.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting. Good to see you guys again, virtually this time.
Yeah.
Yes, good to see you.
So
my dog was just here visiting, but he just left. He's like, I'm not into Skype streams. He's like, I'm out. So sorry.
Yeah, I
was hoping Maddie could join us.
That would be Maddie the poodle.
Yes, he's the best. No, but I've been super excited about this app. I mean, I think people were like, we don't understand, like, how did you guys like create this? And it was actually a lot of work. Like, we put so much time and effort into it. And I think it was really cool I think making this was really fun because we went through and you guys watched me edit a video and then kind of like piece together how I edited to make full tutorials. So, I mean, this is a lot of stuff that I do.
Yeah,
so maybe we could go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Mark. You go ahead, Mark. You.
No, I'm just going to ask, maybe you can give folks a little bit of background about, like, sort of how you got into all this and what you do for folks that aren't really familiar.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been editing. It was crazy because even making a little video talking about this project, I realized I've been editing since around like 2005. And I originally started editing in Avid and Premiere and using After Effects. And then when I was at doing this project, I was like, why are we using Avid? Like, we're doing these simple editing things that I think Final Cut would be so much better for. So it was at my job previously editing in Avid that I started editing in Final Cut. So that was around 2006. And since then, I've just stuck with it. And it's just been something that, for me, has worked so well because I use so many different medias and just pulling in different camera angles and all kinds of things. Like, it just works seamless and perfect for me. And of course, I'm obviously a huge Mac fan. That goes without saying.
So you find that using Final Cuts, it really speeds up your workflow. The interface isn't in your way. You could just, you crank out a ton of content. I'm I'm amazed how much content you're able to produce. So Final Cut really is a preferred tool just because you can work so quickly with it.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great is, I think people find things they are comfortable with and work with them. I mean, whatever it is you edit with, that's great. But for me, and even some of my friends who have edited previously in Premiere, when they see the things that I'm doing so quickly, they're like, okay, all right, so you just pulled in all that red footage, you don't have to, that's it? It's just working? I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Even last night, I edited the 2 videos I posted this morning. Like, I shot those last night, edited both of them, scheduled them, and then they posted this morning. So it is a very quick turnaround time.
That was the Apple Card.
Yeah, the
Apple Card and iPhone rumors.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. You do. You work with tons of different cameras. So you work with like Sony A7s. You have GoPros. You have Osmos. You have 360 cameras. You have Red cameras. It sounds like you could throw all of that in Final Cut Pro, and it just it doesn't slow you down in any way. It just works really great with all of these different media types.
Yeah, and I think most of the people watching, obviously, they probably all use Final Cut, so they're very well aware of how great it does work. And I mean, just doing like the two camera things, I think one of the things that you guys actually taught me while we were working on this app is convincing me to use the multicam. And now I'm completely sold. Like it has sped up my workflow so incredibly, just so much. So thank you so much. And if you guys want to learn, of course, we talk about that also in the app.
Yeah, the multicam feature in Final Cut, I would definitely say it is the best multicam editor out there, bar none. No one could convince me any of the other NLEs have a better solution for for fast multi-camera editing. So that's awesome. That's great. Because I mean,
It's
you do a lot of
so
two-camera.
fast.
Yeah, you do a lot of two-camera shoots. I mean, you do an unboxing. There's when we were at your studio, you had a wide shot on you, and then you have another Sony camera close-up. So like when you're holding the products, it just makes sense for you to cut to the close-ups, when you need to cut to them, whatever. So yeah, it's great.
And I think originally when I first started doing that, like the multicam wasn't as great as it is now. So I think I just was kind of afraid to like touch it because I had my workflow. I didn't want to change it. But then when I tried it and then got the hang of it, I was like, this is insane. Like it's so fast.
Yeah, one of the things that surprised me was that you don't really export from Final Cut to YouTube. You export like a master file, and then you use Compressor to spit out all your movies. I was surprised, but you find that a better workflow for what you do. You like Compressor.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, if I'm exporting a bunch of different versions of it too. So if it is something that I'm sending to a client or, a brand that wants to proof it, I'm not going to send them the full 4K. I'll just export my 4K version just in case it's ready to go. And then I'll send them like a 720 or a 1080. But most of the time I'm not posting the videos immediately. And a lot of times on YouTube, you want to post it as soon as you are about to upload it because who knows what happens in the back end of YouTube. It is a mystery. So sometimes if you leave videos sitting there too long, maybe they might think it's an old video or it might go live by accident. So I think for a lot of us YouTubers, we really don't use the share to YouTube unless it's something that we want to go live immediately. Plus, when you upload through YouTube, I already have a bunch of custom settings and tags that automatically just go up as I upload it. Yeah. So I think that's sort of just the workflow that I've used.
Hey, Steve, we're getting some questions for Justine.
All right.
Awesome. We've got so Emily Sosa, who also said, I just wanted to tell you, Justine, you inspired me to start editing, which is very cool. Yep. But she also asked, what inspired you to start editing in the first place?
I think I've always been like sort of into technology. And so before video, like I loved photography. And then so it was sort of just that next iteration was to get into video once video cameras were something that we were easily able to purchase. So they weren't so crazy expensive. I mean, I was editing from like VHS to VHS recorders, like back when I was younger. Like I would take my parents' VHS tapes and I would just be like making my own little videos. It's always something that I've just really loved. And I don't know, I guess I never really wanted to do anything else. So I guess it worked out pretty well.
So you literally were doing tape to tape editing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I wish I had some of those old videos. I'm sure they're somewhere, but most of them I made like with my guinea pig. Like I would dress the guinea pig up. It's actually my sister's guinea pig, so I don't want to be taking credit for her pet, but I definitely made some great films about it.
So, and you had a computer in your yearbook, is that right? Like you posed with a computer in your yearbook picture?
I did, yeah. My mom, bless her for putting up with my crazy antics, but because I was like, we need to take this computer and the monitor, and that thing was heavy. And so, yeah, that's in my high school yearbook and my senior picture.
True geek.
So
it's true.
Yeah, one other question for you, Justine, is like, you crank out a lot of videos. What was your biggest week of like, how many videos would you do in a week typically? Because I'm just curious, like, was there like a
I think we were talking about this. It was because before I used to have a gaming channel, a vlog channel, a review channel, my main channel, and then I was probably posting maybe like 10 or 15 gaming videos a week, and then 3 or 4 videos on my main channel. Every day I'd be posting a vlog and then a video for my iPhone channel like every day. So it was a lot of content, and I feel like I kind of burned myself out, which I think is something that happens in every industry. But for me, like a few years ago, I just kind of like said I need to just focus on one channel, think about the things that I like, and also kind of make time for having outside hobbies and activities, because I think that's one of the questions that I get is how have I been able to do this for so long? And I think just kind of going back, figuring out the reason that I started doing this and just making videos about the things that I love really helped me sort of stay grounded and keep being able to have the energy to make content, because it is a lot. And I honestly love editing. And thankfully I do have you guys met Tyler, who helped shoot the video. So he does help me edit some stuff now, because it's a lot. But I still, like, I love to edit. So people get so upset with me. They're like, you could crank out so much more content if you had everyone edit all of your stuff. I was like, but for me, like that's fun of it.
No, but
so you get to
I mean,
tell the
people
story
who are watching this, people who are watching this know how much work it is, but nobody who just sees these YouTube videos that just look like everybody's having fun, like thinks that you're just having fun all the time, and they have no idea how much work goes into preparing for those things, to doing the shoot, to doing it. They have no idea how much work that takes. It's really, because we see, like, you are an extremely hard worker. I just you seem to be working all the time, and it looks like you're having fun in your videos all the time, but the fact is you're working all the time as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, but it's good because like you can kind of fit work into the things that are fun. So I feel like every time I'm going on a hike, I'm reviewing a new camera or a new product. So I always have like something with me.
Right.
It's never like I'm on a hike to enjoy the outdoors. Like I'll have like the new GoPro or the new Osmo Action or something with me. But I think that's what makes these things relatable, is because people do want to see it out in the real world. So I think that's something that like I want to see. So I just kind of make the content that I'm mostly looking for.
So what advice would you have for, like, and a lot of people, I hear it all the time, I want to get into YouTube, I want to make YouTube. What advice would you have for, let's say, somebody who wanted to start getting into YouTube? Would you discourage them?
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
I mean, I think just start. Like, I think I even sometimes put too much thought into things. I'm like, just make a video. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And especially with the amount of content that you need to turn around in such a short amount of time, like it's going to be what it is. And I think that's sort of the joy of it. It's you don't have the time to make a feature film. Like you have to film like 6 videos last night, and I want to get 2 up this morning. So just do it. And it's not easy. And I think if you want to keep doing it, you just have to not quit. And that's kind of sort of my mindset. It's like, I really still enjoy doing this, so I'm not going to stop.
Awesome. So is there any questions in the chat for iJustine?
A lot of, people say I gained so much respect for YouTubers. I gained so much respect for YouTubers when I started editing and uploading my own stuff. Exactly. It's definitely hard work, and some just compliments. I'm not seeing a lot more questions. If you have any more questions for Justine, we only have her for a few minutes, so if you have any questions, throw them in there now. What do you have going on right now? What's next up for you?
I'm so excited. We're working on a camera camp. So we partner with Sony. So we're going to have a bunch of creators come out and just hang out in Montana and make content and learn, edit, all kinds of really fun stuff. So I think that's something that my sister and I have really just wanted to do, because it's hard to get all of us creators out in one place to hang out and just, be able to share stories and just create content together. Is going to be so much fun. So we're really looking forward to that. And that's happening in September.
And I'm going to be there too. I'm going to teach Final Cut at the camera camp.
Oh yeah. You're going to love it. I'll come pop in, say hi. But yeah, it's going to be really fun because it's such a great place, and it's just, it's going to be a cool vibe. So, and Sony has done such a great job with these types of events. So this is sort of that first iteration of that. And then I think, doing this type of instruction stuff is really fun. And then in 2020, next year, also working on something fun, which is also kind of event-based. So everybody can stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
I
think we have one last question we have time here for. Actually, one is, have you ever or will you ever consider letting someone else edit your videos to free up some time?
Yeah, so I've definitely tried over the years, and it's really hard because they have to be able to have your voice and be able to kind of get your, I don't know exactly like kind of what you want, but it's been fun working with Tyler because he gets me, he gets the style, and he's funny and he's cool and he can be in the videos. So I think that's like ideally what I've been looking for, is someone that kind of just understands what I want and I don't have to say it. So that's like kind of the relationship that Jen and I have, which is usually why I have her film all my stuff, because I don't have to tell her what I want. Like we have the same brain and she just does it. So finding somebody like that, I mean, it's hard because there's just, there's a lot of people that want to do their own thing, which is totally cool because sometimes they bring a really great perspective that you normally wouldn't ever have. So I definitely don't discourage that, but I think it's just finding somebody to help kind of do some of it is definitely helpful.
Has your sister watched your training yet?
She did not. She downloaded it and she's so excited because I've watched her edit before and I'm like, you could do this, do this, do this. So I think this time I'll actually be telling her, but not standing over her shoulder, just picking at her.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's cool. Yeah,
So,
I'm excited to check it out.
Let's see. Do you have a favorite video that you've done? That's one question here. Anything that sticks out for you over all this time? Because you've done, how many videos you've done? It's got to be many hundreds or thousands.
It's thousands. Yeah. I mean, I think I had like 1,000 gaming videos before I made those private. But one of my favorite videos, I made this a long time ago. It's actually one that I didn't edit, but it was a really fun project that I just kind of always wanted to do. It was a really fun Lego stop motion video. So I partnered with Google a long time ago to do this. It was a holiday video and it was so much fun. So we just like built all of like the little Star Wars. I think it was like their collection. Yeah, it was one of my favorite ones.
I was being interrupt, but it's like I'm a huge Lego fan, and when I was at Justine Studio, I discovered she is a huge Lego fan, and that just kind of like made my whole day. So
yeah.
Hey, by the way, Justine, they just released a like Disneyland train with the station, so pretty cool.
I saw that.
So,
I know, it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Lego is so much fun. I love all the stuff that Lego's doing too. Like they're getting more into like the digital world, kind of like doing AR and VR Lego. I'm into it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, I think one last question here is Yuri Levin was asking, and thank you for the contribution, Yuri, is what's your approach to lighting your videos?
I used to love just using natural light, but then I realized it took me too long to shoot a video sometimes, that the light would change a lot. So I love just having like a natural as possible light, unless I'm shooting like over in a studio. So just kind of like bouncing light is something that I do quite often. I sort of point things up to the ceiling if I don't have like a softbox or something. But yeah, it's usually like try to keep it as simple as possible.
So you've got right there, you're using a little bit of natural light and you've got a studio light set up, right?
No, right now this is all natural light. So I just turn my computer towards the window.
Wow.
So this is all this is
Yeah.
just the window.
Awesome. Steve, anything else?
I was thoroughly entertained by our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and answering our
I see somebody
questions.
Asking me if I'm still using the Jellyfish, and yes, I am. You can kind of hear the fan in the background a little bit. But yeah, that's been so great just for storage wise, and I edit directly right off of that with Final Cut. So yeah, Jellyfish.
So
still using
a lot of people don't realize that you're that you use a Jellyfish for and you've got other folks editing in the same location, and that you're a gamer. And you said you did like 1,000 gamer videos before even getting to a lot of this other technology stuff, right? So, and you're a baker too, right? You do some cooking videos as well?
Yeah, I haven't done those as much because there's so much cleanup that it drives me crazy because I make such a disaster.
That's funny.
But yeah,
well, just so,
it's kind of
folks can find you. If folks here don't already know, just iJustine. Just go to YouTube, type in iJustine. She's got a huge channel there. She's just about to hit 6 million followers, and we're honored to have her on the show today.
Yep.
And we created, check out her app on the App Store. It's for Final Cut Pro 10. You just type in iJustine in the App Store. That'll come right up. It's actually on the front of the App Store right now if you go there under Create, or actually just on the very front of the App Store. And it's iJustine's approach to how to edit videos. It's got the Ripple training sort of wraparound to it, so in terms of the structure, but all the content is based on how Justine edits her YouTube videos. It's really based on that, and teaching you tips and tricks that you can use, whether you're doing YouTube videos or anything, will help you get up to speed. So it's really trying to target people who are getting into YouTube videos or just getting it edited in general. Yep. So go ahead and check that out. And Justine, any last words or anything you want to mention?
No, just thanks for working on this app with me, because it was just really great. I think like the structure is really so well thought out, which you guys did an incredible job kind of making sense of all of the craziness that goes into editing a YouTube video, because for me, I just do it. Like I don't normally explain what I'm doing. You're like, what key did you hit? I'm like, I don't know. I just push some buttons, what I always push. So it was really fun kind of slowing down and kind of like actually taking in like what I'm actually doing towards the video. So yeah, so thank you guys. And I'm excited for people to check out the app and learn some new editing techniques.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks,
yes,
Justine.
thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye. All right, don't everybody leave. We're not done. Like people, it's like Abba was saying, thanks for sharing. Hey, so Abba's listen. Abba's a good friend who's checking out the show right now. Stephen Nash, thank you much for the $5.
Yep,
that was great.
That was so much fun.
Really great.
All right. So do you want to see if we can answer the questions? We have another thing we want to show you later. I don't know when you want to show that, Mark, but it's pretty cool.
Well, let's do a few. Let's just see if there's a few questions here. Magnus was asking, how much grief from Linus have you gotten from the jelly? Linus did a whole video about that very specifically. You can look it up where he talks specifically about that and the difference between a build-it-yourself server and buying something off the shelf like a Jellyfish, which is more expensive, but at the end of the day, it's not because it works. Unless you're really technologically savvy, you should check out that video and see what he says about both his own approach and what he thought of the Jellyfish. It's really useful. Wow, Peter Downing, thank you very much. Appreciate that contribution. Just a reminder, if you want your questions answered for sure, if you give a little contribution, it'll post up there and we find those first.
So the Frank Maxwell, Justine, what's so special about your training, FCP and Ripple? Well, I think we answered that. It's her approach to editing videos. So one thing she didn't mention is that we provide the media from one of her YouTube videos. So not only do you get to follow along with her, but you get to use the media. So it's really not, our style of teaching, it's her style of teaching. We didn't want to superimpose our style over her. She teaches the way she teaches. Yes. But that's what's different. It's how she edits her videos. So hopefully I answered that. Let's see, there's a question about, are y'all attending FCP Summit in Cupertino? Yes, Mark and I are on the roster for teaching. We'll actually be doing some workshops, so we will be at I'll have more to say. We'll have more to say about the Summit, which is it's basically a gathering of Final Cut Pro editors, producers, filmmakers, all in one place in Cupertino at Apple. You get to visit the mothership, which is the spaceship. We get to hang out with other Final Cut Pro users. And that's something that you want to look at. We'll have more to say about that. But if you want to just Google Final Cut Pro 10 Summit, it's coming up in November. Mark and I will be there along with.
I'm going to put a link right now.
Okay.
I'll put a link in the chat window.
Sure. Okay. Awesome.
Here's a link in the chat window for the Summit if you guys want to check it out. Summit's really great. It's like a few hundred really excited Final Cut Pro 10 users who are getting together and getting training and getting to know each other, a lot of social interaction, going to Apple Park. This year, we're not just going to the visitor center. We're going to actually go into Apple Park itself, which is really cool. So that's going to be a really fun time coming up in November.
Yep. All right. So keep the questions coming in. I mean, I said at the top of the show is for you to answer your specific Final Cut related questions, technical issues, or just how to use the software more efficiently. I think what I want to do is kind of switch over to Mark, and he's going to show something that he's been working on, and we're going to release next week. But it's a pretty cool update to one of our very popular plugins. So I'm going to switch over to Mark, let him show it to you, and then I'll be monitoring the chat window for your questions. And when he's done, we will spend the remainder of the show answering your questions. That's all yours, Mark.
Thank you, Steve.
All yours, buddy.
Great. Okay. So we've had a product that one of our best-selling plugins is called Ripple Tools Complete, which is a very varied set of 32 different kind of tools that you can use, useful tools for editors. We've updated it, and the big update is that we've added tracking. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about it. So here I'm in Final Cut, and if I go to the titles browser, we see Ripple Tools Complete. There's actually 37 different effects in here right now. So they're broken down into categories like helpers and looks, multi-purpose tools, special effects, text effects, transformers, and a couple new ones over here in the effects browser. Now, things that you've been able to do with Ripple Tools Complete, if you're not familiar, are things like guides. So for instance, if you're compositing a bunch of text and graphics on a screen and it's hard, like how do you line them up? You're sitting here and, how do I get these to really line up to each other? They kind of snap to the center of the screen, but I can't really tell how they line up. Well, guides is a simple, set of guides that you can move around to use to line up your text and graphics really easily. So that's just one example of a tool that we find that's quite useful for for lining things up. Something else is if you've got video that's not level, like this shot here, not level. So we've got something called Leveler, which you can use to very quickly just sort of put a line where you want a horizon line and then adjust it like that. And then in the inspector, you can adjust the scale right here. So just a quick handy tool for doing things like making sure the video is level. Vertical video, you need to get rid of all these black bars when you put vertical video in a 16:9 frame. Well, we've got something that I'll just turn on, quickly gives you a background of that video and a lot of controls for scaling it and blurring it. We include an adjustment layer, which a lot of you guys already know what that is, but if I've got 3 different clips and I've got an adjustment layer on top. If I turn that on, I've applied a color correction and it's made them all, in this case, all black and white. But an adjustment layer, you can apply any effect, including color correction, and any transformation, like scale, position, rotation, and it'll affect all the clips underneath. Really handy for a broadcast safe or for adding sharpening or noise reduction or what have you to an adjustment layer. We have things like putting clips in 3D space and adding reflections to clips and adding split screens and doing end title crawls that include drop zones for graphics and media. And even something where if you've got some 3D text, which I've got here, if I turn on 3D glint, it's a little thing that adds a nice, very flexible and adjustable glints to 3D text, and actually adding glints to anything. We also have a very neat black and white effect that lets you go way beyond just making something black and white by adjusting each channel independently. You can radically change what something looks like when you pull the color out. And you can even add a little bit of the color back in and tint it and do a variety of things. Cool repeater effects. But what I really want to get to is tracking, okay? I just want to give a little background on some of the other things that are in there that I think are really useful. That was just a couple of them. So we have something in there called obscure, which we've had before, but now it's trackable. So for instance, I've got this shot of Steve wearing a Mickey Mouse logo on his hat, and I want to get rid of that logo. I want to blur it out. So the first thing I do is just hide the effect, that blur effect, so that I can focus on tracking. And I'll take this little tracker over here and put it on there and run the tracker. And it goes through and it tracks the hat. And then it adds keyframes, so you can adjust the track if you need to. And now I'm going to turn that tracker off, and I can turn my effect back on, and I can move that blur over here. And you'll notice if I scrub through, it's now perfectly tracking with this head. So I can just take that blur now, and I can bring the size way down, and maybe I can make it a little oblong. And you can rotate it and just get it right where you want. And it doesn't need to be blurred quite so much. And I can feather out the edges of the mask a little bit. And now I've got if I can just select that so you can see on screen control. There, I've got a perfectly tracked blur of that logo. So great for times that you need to blur out a logo, or someone's got something on their shirt, you need to blur somebody's face. Totally trackable now. So no keyframe, just throw that on there and you can get rid of all that stuff. Super useful. Another thing that we added tracking to was our cloner. So we've had a cloner in here that allows you to remove things like dust or bad pixels from your screen, or remove objects. And a great example is a shadow from a drone. So right here, I have a drone. There was a actually Travis shot this with the drone of us sitting here in this lake, and you can see the drone shadow up there. Like, well, I'm going to remove that thing. I don't want it in there. So you can just take the tracker, move over to that drone shot there, track that drone. And there it's tracked. So I'll turn off that object tracker, and then I can take my little target and move it over here. And by the way, there's little quick tips built into all these that you can turn on, that you get help built right in here, or you click the help button and go to some videos that gives you some more information. So now that it's over there, I can hide that target, and I can just offset my my target to make that go away, and make this scale quite a bit smaller, and then maybe blur it out. A lot of feathers, really helpful. Blur that out so that I've now hidden that drone from the shot. And the drone is gone, and you can track through and it's gone. So great for removing things from the shot. In fact, check this out. Here's a nice shot of a kayaker going down the river. And maybe you don't want the kayaker. It's a beauty shop, but you don't want the kayaker. You didn't get a release for the kayaker. So here, I just already tracked this and took it out. But if I turn that on, you see kayaker is gone from that shot. So just a cool tool to use. A whole nother thing that you can do with tracking is to track basically color corrections or different kind of looks. So one tool we've had in RippleTools Complete is several different looks. You can see here in the browser, there's several different looks here. I've got the color balance applied here. And before I use it, I'll just go ahead and once again, I'll track her face this time and make this a little larger and track the face. There we go. And you can see that's now tracked to her face. So I'll hide the tracker. And then this color balance works basically by bringing up color wheels for shadows, midtones, and highlights. So I'll bring up the midtones, and let's say I just want to warm up the midtones a little bit there. I'll do a little too much just so you can really see it. And you notice it affected the entire frame. But we can enable a mask for all of these looks, and now we have a masked area. I can take that and position it more directly over her, and then I'll change its scale in both X and Y to make it quite a bit smaller. And I'll also increase its roundness to smooth it out. And I'll feather it out quite a bit just for a nice, soft, blurred in look. So I've just got that look right on her face there. And now I've got a tracked, basically a tracked color correction on her face. And that works with each of our looks here. In fact, anything in RippleTools Complete that has this outline, this checkerboard outline, is now trackable. So 18 of our plugins within this plugin are now trackable, and there's a bunch of looks. So you might say, well, that's great, but what about color correcting in Final Cut? You know, those looks are great, but I want access to all of Final Cut's, you know, curves and hue saturation controls and everything. Color wheels, well, you can do that. So the way you do that, I've got this clip here of this couple running. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to option drag up a copy of that clip on top. And then I'm going to take over in the effects browser, I've got RippleTools Complete, and I've got two trackable masks. One's kind of like what we just saw, and one has points to it. It's a little more flexible because it's got these individual control points. So there it is. And what I'll do at first is I'll hide that mask, and once again, let's just track. So I'll track her face. You can see the tracker's quick, works really great. You can always adjust it afterwards if something's off. So I've got that tracked. I'll turn that off. And then revealing the mask just lets me see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to position over here, and I can use these control points to kind of shape the mask. And you know, it's not like a draw mask. It's not, you can't add infinite points and do anything you want. You basically have a roughly oval shape that you can adjust. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to feather it out just so I have a nice kind of soft mask covering her. And now, you know, I don't want this blue look, but that gets me started. Once I've done that, I can turn off that reveal mask checkbox. And now if I add a color correction to this clip, so I'll just hit Command 6. And if I go in just the color board, obviously you can use any of the color correctors you want in here. But for instance, in the color board, if I just exposure, you can see it's only affecting her face, and that's tracking to her face. So any adjustments I make, like I can just exposure a little bit, I can go to saturation, maybe just saturation a little bit. And now I've got a tracked color correction, essentially a power window built into Final Cut. You can really do tracked color corrections here using this tool, and it's just part of the whole thing. So that's actually one I'm most excited about, is being able to do that kind of color correction in Final Cut. Finally, I just want to show you two other ones. We've got a lens blur, so I've got the shot here, and I can have this lens blur to create this kind of miniaturized look, tilt shift effect, where we've got this shot of a drone moving down, and it looks like a mini house because we've blurred the foreground and background and tracked that blurring to it. And finally, we have trackable light rays. So here I've got a shot of the sun, and I can turn this on. It's a lens flare and a light ray, and you can see that tracks to the shot there. It'll track to some bright area. I can toggle that on and off, just tapping the V key to turn that off. So 37 different effects in this plugin collection, RippleTools Complete, 18 of them now trackable. If you've already bought, there was a sale on FX Factory the past 2 days. So if you already bought RippleTools Complete, This is a free upgrade for everybody who owns any version of Ripple Tools Complete. There's no cost to it at all. If you've never bought it, it's $59. It's going to be on sale for $39 starting today. It's actually live today, even though we're not announcing it till probably Monday or Tuesday. So you guys are really the first people to hear about it. We're actually still in the process of updating our website and everything. So, but we wanted you guys to see it first. Like I say, $39 instead of $59 for the next week. Totally free trial, so you can try it first and see if it works for you. It's watermarked, but fully functional. You can check it out that way. And we're excited about it. We love the tracking. We added tracking to Ripple Callouts Complete a couple of months ago, so we've got all those callouts with tracking, but now we've added it to Ripple Tools Complete.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that awesome demo, Mark, and check out the plugin. So we've had some questions while you were focused on the Final Cut Pro 10 UI. So a couple of them. One way earlier about way to rename favorites in Final Cut Pro 10. Yes, you can rename favorites as many as you like. If you rename one favorite, it doesn't apply to other favorites. You can. I think, Mark, did you answer that one? I don't want to get it.
Well, all I said is, like, I cover that in detail in the Final Cut Pro interviews tutorial that we released last week. And in fact, there's a free tip. If you go to that tutorial on our website, if you go to our website and look at short form tutorials and look at the Final Cut Pro interviews, there's a link to it. There's a free tip that goes over exactly how to do that using keyboard shortcuts. So you can very, very quickly set a favorite, go to it, and change it, all with keyboard shortcuts, super fast. So check that out.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a question here from, I'm going way back earlier in the chat feed. Do you guys have a degrees, go to film school, or list loads of experience? Martin Taylor asked, I just seen so long ago. So yeah, I went to film school, but that was, I don't know, in the 80s. Yeah, I went to a film school in Los Angeles, and then I got into advertising, and then I just started, playing with this stuff in 1993, and I just kind of fell in love with the technology, and it was kind of a good merging of storytelling and technology. So I just spend a lot of time with the software because I love it, and so that's really an experience thing. Just spend a lot of time with the software. Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to address Kawhi. Well, I just want to address because there's somebody made a $10 contribution, very much appreciated. Although I don't know how to answer the question. How can I figure out why iTunes keeps launching by itself on 10.13.6 on a mini Mac? Only app normally running as a light and control app. I don't know. Nothing to do with Final Cut. For me, iTunes will launch if I download an audio file. It'll automatically launch. Do you have any ideas, Steve?
Well, I remember. Gosh, it's been a long time. You have like if you does anyone use CDs anymore? When you had something in there that prompted iTunes to launch, like a CD or a piece of music, something that it's somehow iTunes is. Actually, yeah, I don't know. There's a number of things. I'm just kind of randomly making stuff up off the top of my head. What would cause it to launch? There's something that's triggering it. Some audio files, something in your system is causing it.
Sometimes when you open an audio file, the default app might be iTunes.
Yeah, sometimes you open an audio file. That's a good point. The info for the file might automatically trigger iTunes to open. So that's something that you'd be aware of, because when you export like an audio-only file, that's a really good point. From Final Cut, and a lot of times it tags the file in the get info. If you select the file and get info, you'll see open with, it'll say iTunes. And that's a lot of times what causes iTunes to open is the file. Mm-hmm. So thanks for that, Trav. That's a good point. All right. Is there any other super chats?
There's another paid contribution from Frame26. Is there a shortcut that allows you to navigate between open projects? Absolutely. Do you want to show that? Or do you want? Or no? Sure. I'll show it. Share screen. Start sharing. So I have this project open right here. So without a keyboard shortcut, you click on these arrows here. These are the timeline history buttons. And in fact, if you click and hold on them, they will show you all of the different projects that you've opened recently. So you could select one instead of just hitting back. You could jump to one you want. But if you just wanted, instead of clicking on this, the keyboard shortcut is Command and then left bracket or right bracket. So Command left bracket will go back. Command right bracket will go forward in your project history of what you've opened recently. So hopefully that's what you're asking.
All right. Well, that's it, man. That's it. That's great.
That's it.
So,
couple questions about the. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
A couple questions. One's about YouTube. I think Stephen Nash, thank you for your contribution through Super Chat. How do you set up YouTube channel like you have? Well, you set up the channel. Anybody could set up a channel using a Gmail account, or I like Gmail because, one password to rule them all. Anyway, so yeah, you set up the channel, but really it's not about the channel. Anybody can set up a channel. It's really how you promote it, how you organize it. We don't have a video on it per se. I've actually toyed with the idea of doing a tutorial on just how to set up YouTube, how to set up your playlist, how to create thumbnails, how to meta tag things. I think that's what you're asking. I don't have anything like that, but if that's something that you're interested in, just let us know. And that's something that certainly would be covered in one of our short subject tutorials. We've been doing a lot of those lately. Mark just did one on the art of interview cutting with using transcripts to do a lot of the work for you. I think that would actually be a really good short subject tutorial.
It's interesting. That's a great suggestion.
So yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. I haven't thought about it a while, but you just brought it to the forefront of my thinking. So yeah, cool. So you said there was another question,
Steve,
Mark?
Well, I had a bunch of questions about the plugin. Some people asking, is it available now? I'm sorry, I can't find your question anymore. I'd give you your name. Here it is. Ken Bennett, is Ripple Tools Complete Update available now? Yes, it is. It's available now. If you go to our website, it doesn't say that. It's being updated currently. But it is. It says 32 plugins on there. It's not. It's 37. We're literally doing that right before going live here. So, but if you go to FX Factory, it's there. It's live. You can download and install it. Somebody else asked, can I track my own clips with Ripple Tools Complete? You can. In Ripple Tools Complete, I didn't demo it. There's one called Drop Zone, and that will track a drop zone to anything in your video. So you can throw that on a video and then throw anything in that drop zone, like a graphic, something with an alpha channel, or another video clip. And whatever you throw in that drop zone will be tracked to your video.
That's pretty cool.
And then there was a question about callouts. Does callouts? I can't find it now, but it asks if callouts complete has tracking, and yes, it does. So, do the free trial to check that out. It's definitely has tracking in there now. That was Spriglet. Thank you for the question.
So, Bobby Thompson asked a question, do you know of a good tutorial on organizing media management, setting up projects? Actually, I do, if you want to cut to my screen, Travi. Mark produced an amazing tutorial called Media Management in Final Cut Pro 10.4. And this covers pretty much everything you're going to want to know: how to organize your libraries, how to take your project with you on the road, how to archive your projects, how to, what I call gather all your eggs in one basket, which is another term I use for consolidate. So basically, Mark's done a great job of covering every aspect of media management here. And so that's why I want to direct your attention to that. But in a related question I saw earlier I didn't see it here. It was had to do with PostLab. Why don't you guys talk about this off? This is kind of a related topic. That PostLab is a piece of software that allows you to collaborate online. And Mark and I have been playing with this. We've been looking at it. We're looking at possibly doing something on this in the future. But basically, it says right here: keep track of who is working on what, when, and basically you check in your libraries in and out, and it does it all through XML. And it basically saves you from having to send XML files and send what you call transfer libraries back and forth.
Transfer libraries, yeah.
Yeah. So this is something we're just so busy. We're gonna get to it. We just haven't yet. So to answer your question, at some point we'll be doing some more on that. Okay.
Hey, I had Jeff Taylor ask, will Justine's app actually run on a MacBook? The term app makes me think this is for an iPhone. And thank you, because what we didn't show you, and I'm going to share my screen here. I'm actually already sharing my screen. So Travis, if you can show my screen. The iJustine training app is actually an extension in Final Cut Pro. So if I go up to my extension button in Final Cut Pro up here and pop it open, you see I've got Frame.io installed, I've got our Ripple training, get it started in Final Cut, and here's iJustine Teaches Final Cut Pro 10. And I've also got Scribe-O-Matic, Shutterstock, and Simon Says a variety of extensions in here. But if I open up hers, you get a window with her entire tutorial right in here that you can go through and, learn her process, while you're in Final Cut. And as Steve mentioned, you get the media. So all the media that she's using as she goes through and teaches this, you've got the media, and learn her whole process. And she really takes you the whole thing through of organizing, keywording, rating, editing, color correcting, sound. You can see it covers everything in here. So extension built right into Final Cut.
So Mark, there's a question that revenue developers asked, just bought Ripple Tools Complete. Can I have it on 2 machines as long as they're not running concurrently?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Awesome. Okay, there's a question about, Harold asked a while back about, besides color grading, what's better in Resolve? Yeah, I mentioned last show, I kind of went off on a little tangent about why we use both. There's some things that Resolve does very well, and then that Final Cut's missing, and there's, saying it straight away, we prefer Final Cut Pro. The editing is just so much faster than editing in Resolve, bar none. So we edit in Resolve. We use the color page a lot to color grade, but in terms of stuff that's outside of color, the tracking is really good. I know we're playing more with Fusion, although Fusion's a tweaky app. I mean, it's definitely no motion. we cover some nodal compositing, but there's some things you can, I don't know, Mark could speak to this about, there's some things you can do in Fusion that you can't do in Motion or Final Cut Pro 10. But before he answers
Absolutely.
that, as Fairlight, which is another question about someone asked just a question about what do you use for audio outside of Final Cut Pro 10? Well, Resolve has a whole built-in digital audio workstation built into it called Fairlight, and it's pretty powerful. And I'm using it more and more. So bringing audio stuff into Fairlight for post work is just makes sense for us. And someone also asked a question about how do you get your audio out of Final Cut? It's not Pro because I can't export OMF and AAF files, so I don't even get it. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember that question, it came up. First of all, OMF is it's an open media framework, and it's old. It's like 90s. It's an old. I know there's a lot of Pro Tools editors that are still stuck to using OMF, but it's being used less and less and less. And kind of the deferred format now is the AAF format. And you can get AAF files out of Final Cut just using a plugin called X2 Pro. X2 Pro will take all of your Final Cut Pro audio, create a folder with AAF files and an XML file, and then you can open that up into Logic or Pro Tools, and then you pretty much have your entire edit. I haven't yet played with it yet with with Fairlight. We're working on a Fairlight tutorial right now. That's something we're going to be, addressing or looking into. So, to answer your question, Fairlight is an option for audio. Some powerful audio tools that aren't built into Final Cut. So, with regard to Fusion, what would you say, Mark? What are some of the things that you find in Resolve that you need to go to?
Well, I think everything in Resolve is deep and very powerful, and the trade-off comes with a learning curve. I mean, the color correction tools have a variety of additional things you can do that you can't do in Final Cut. Final Cut does 90% of what I need, maybe 95, but sometimes there's some face refinement stuff with tracking that you can do in Resolve you can't do in Final Cut. There's all the tracking. It's got a very sophisticated tracker built in, and very, very sophisticated color tools. As far as Fusion goes, you can do things like more sophisticated visual effects. Motion is more focused on motion graphics than visual effects. But in Fusion, you can do things like, it's easier to do screen replacements. You can do paint. You can remove objects from scenes, add objects to scenes. If you want to see some examples, I have a tutorial about using Fusion, Warp Speed Fusion. So just, watch the preview movie to get a sample of the kind of stuff you can do in there. Because Fusion's amazing. And it takes a little bit of a learning curve because it's a nodal compositor, but it's great. We're going to be doing some more stuff on that. In fact, we'll have an updated version of that Fusion tutorial updated for Resolve 16. Came out of beta last week, so we'll have an updated tutorial out for that.
Yeah, next week.
For you guys to check out.
Yeah, in fact, cut to my screen. Here's the Fusion. Here's our Fusion tutorial. we're going to be, I think we're going to be running a sale on Labor Day sale soon. So if you're on our email list, stay tuned for that. But it's a $99 tutorial, but it's there's a lot of stuff Mark put into this. It's you can see here: composite, animate tiles, restore, remove objects, replace screens, composite, do high-end green screen compositing. So Fusion is definitely got a real strong visual effects pedigree. Although you can do motion graphics with it, it's pretty much Resolve's answer to After Effects and Motion, because they don't have a kind of a GUI-based solution like Adobe or Apple. All right, cool. So some other.
So we have. There's a ton of we could do another hour. There are so many questions coming in here. If you, it's hard to even know where to start. There's a couple simple ones. How long is the Ripple Tool sale for? That it's about a week, so it'll be all next week. The actual sale announcement will go out next week, but you guys can buy it now. It's actually out there right now. There's a question about Ripple Titlemations. I'm not quite sure I understand it, Media Experts 11, but if you just email support@rippletraining.com, we will get that immediately. I'll look at it and try to answer your question. Okay, I think that's the best way to handle that.
Kurt Bailey is a Ripple-like source for good compression practices, particularly reducing file size without crunching quality. That's another tutorial that I've been meaning to do. We have our own secret sauce, or our own secret sauce for compression that we use in Compressor for squeezing the most amount of quality and getting the file size to a minimum. So that's something. We have more ideas than we have time, but I think that would be a really good one. So yeah, if you're interested in a compression tutorial, put that in there. We'll put that in the list of something that we want to do. That would make a nice, good short subject tutorial, under an hour, that we could do as a webinar. So thanks for that. Okay, how long, the Auto Develer, how long do you archive footage if most likely never revisit the footage again? If you're not going to revisit it, then I don't see any point in archiving it unless, you just, for that one case where they come back or you need to open it. Storage is cheap. We're running a Synology here with 42 terabytes, but, every year at the end of the year, we look at, do we really need that? Are we ever going to edit ever again? No. Boom, we delete it. Gone. I mean, a lot of our Mac breaks. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add, there's a couple things you can do that are non-destructive that are useful just to get rid of. Yeah. So you can delete all your generated media. You can select the library and go under File and choose delete generated media files. Sorry, and you can delete all of your optimized proxy and render files because they can always be regenerated. There's no harm in that. It'll save a ton of space. You can also get rid of your cache. It's a little funny. Getting rid of your cache requires you to go into the library package, which we don't recommend you do very much. But if you get there's like a $5 app called Final Cut Pro Library Manager, which is awesome because it shows you all your libraries and how much space is taken up by all the different pieces. How much is render files? How much is optimized? How much is cache? How much is media? And it lets you delete all that stuff right from the app. I highly recommend Final Cut Pro 10 Library Manager. For helping you to archive your project. Do that and then just, put the thing on a drive, and then, you're going to need to copy it off that drive from time to time because the drive's going to die eventually, even if it's sitting on a shelf, or especially if it's sitting on a shelf.
Nick Button asked, as wedding videographer for the main part, is Compressor worth investing in? Absolutely. It's only $50. And one of the great things, and this is one people don't know about Compressor, you can batch render from Compressor, and you can set up a bunch of jobs. And so you can be spitting out an iPad version, a web version, a master version, all with one pass. But here's the kicker about it, why we like it. And this is why Justine uses it. She doesn't use Final Cut to export her YouTube videos. You can keep working in Final Cut while your video is compressing in Compressor. That's not true in Final Cut. If you share from Final Cut Pro, you can't use Final Cut to edit until that compressor, until those compression jobs are done. So that's why Compressor is better. You can actually quit Compressor and the job is still running in the background. So it's still spitting out your movie. So yes, we're huge fans of Compressor.
Clarification, you can edit, it just pauses.
Right, yeah, you can, thank you, Travis, you can edit, but it pauses the export while you're editing.
Background.
It's not background processing. So yeah, thank you for that clarification. Awesome. All right. All right, so we've got a few more minutes here. So while you're going to answer that next question, I'm going to bring up our
Sure.
our
Sure.
keynote
So
slides.
Jeff Taylor's asking, what's the difference between motion and warp speed fusion? Well, I'll be a smartass. Motion is an application and warp speed fusion is a tutorial. Sorry, Jeff. So I think you're asking maybe between motion and fusion. So motion's an application that you create motion graphics and visual effects for that's tightly bundled with Final Cut Pro, because any titles, transitions, effects, or generators you create in motion can be published to Final Cut Pro. In fact, all of those things in Final Cut Pro, the default ones that come with it, its titles and transitions and effects, were all built with motion. So you can use motion to build effects that you use in Final Cut Pro. It's an easy to use application. It's $50, easy to learn, and very effective and very fast. Fusion is a whole nother. Fusion is, I would call it primarily a visual effects and compositing application that has motion graphics capabilities, which is the opposite of motion. It's part of Resolve. It's a standalone application as well. And it's very deep. It's nodal-based compositing that takes a little while to get used to if you're not new to it. If you're new to it, but it's also very, very powerful. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. Hopefully that helps. If not, I'll try again. All right, so Steve,
we
we're
talk about
our
last. Yeah, let's bring up the slide. You want to switch to my screen really quick there, Travi. So normally we have the next few RippleLIVE scheduled here. This will be the next one, September 6th. The reason I don't have the ones following is because I'll be in Montana for the Sony camp that Justine was referring to. I'll be teaching Final Cut there, so that happens over a Friday, so Friday and Saturday, Sunday, I think. So our next RippleLIVE show will be on Friday, September 6th, and we're looking forward to that show. So anyway, so thanks everyone for your awesome questions. Remember, you can use support at rippletraining.com and post your questions there. Mark and I monitor those. And let's see, we got some, go and check out Mark's plugin. It does some really great stuff. He's really figured out how to do some pretty tweaky stuff under the hood to get that tracking to work. And next week we're going to be releasing our Fusion tutorial, and we're working on a bunch of other Resolve stuff as well. And we'll have some more information about the Creative Summit in Cupertino coming up in November. Anything else, Mark?
I don't think so. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of your questions. I'll try to answer a few after we sign off here. But join us again, and thank you for joining us. I mean, this show works because you guys are here, and we really enjoy doing this and talking to you guys and just hanging out and geeking out in Final Cut a little bit. So thank you very much.
Yes, thanks. So have a great weekend, everyone. See you next time.